Days and nights, measured in minutes. Earth passes below, kaleidoscope of colors. Seas aren't just blue, many shades of green. Feathers filled with life, desire to touch. Glass and space walls, mesmerized by the show. Can't stop watching. All right, by James Tom, I guess. It's kind of blocked off. Now,
I like it.
yeah, it's called Earth Orbit. Pretty simple. I like simple poems sometimes. Now, who am I exactly?
Yeah, that's a good question. What is this?
What is this indeed? So, okay. All right. So I had that goofy background a little bit if you guys saw the previous show. Anyways, all right, I'm Shen. You're watching SG2 on Space. The only, well, I like to say the only weekly space show. Let's bring it back here. We have not been very regular weekly lately, but hey, you know, if you're watching this, know that this is going to get back on track. So the last episode we talked about
busy.
There you go. Okay, there's a disembodied voice in the background. I'm going to bring that person on so that you know it's not just like a figment of your imagination talking. So if you're watching this, hopefully you're watching on YouTube, SG2 on Space. I'm going to say thank you to our Patreon supporters. You guys are still supporting it. So Kyle Baker, Sam Welsh, John Graves for your kindly donations. I'm going to keep the ticker running at the bottom. For now, let me bring the disembodied voice. Who is this guy? This is... Introduce yourself. Oh, he just disappeared.
No, I can't. That's because I clicked on the wrong button.
Leonard Kramer, the one and only. Oh, okay, well...
Yep.
That's... Yes. So, you're
How are you doing, Shen?
I'm doing well, all things considered. I will say that I'm excited to be back doing the show for this week. That's for sure. And hearing
me too. It's the highlight of my week when we do it. So
and you know what else? Like, I think what would really fit your red color would be if you're drinking Waterloo strawberry. But you don't have to. I'm doing it
next time.
Well, if you're wearing red though, or something like that. So. All right, this is Leonard Kramer. Does not need any more introduction than that. So, if you not really, I mean, how would you describe yourself?
A curious character.
Lovely. All right, Leonard Kramer, a curious character. Today, our episode is something that's been on the radar for a little while now. Leonard used to work for Boeing, so I'm sure he's very qualified to talk about this, possibly. So we're going to talk about the Boeing Starliner, an update on that. Recall a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago, we had an episode talking about when the Starliner first went up, I believe. So now it's been like almost 2 months later. So what's going on?
Yeah, I think we first talked about it. When did we first talk about it? I think in June, just after they launched.
Exactly.
Was it?
Yeah.
And I think at that time we were thinking, oh, what a relief. They
succeeded finally.
Right. Well,
I shouldn't use the word finally.
Yeah. It's not looking good.
Well, actually, for people's reference, what is the Starliner? What is it supposed to do? And
the Starliner is part of an initiative that was begun by NASA in 2000. I think the contracts were floated in 2000, starting 2010 up through 2000, awarded in 2014 for vehicles to fly to the space station. The shuttle. The space shuttle filled that role for the United States for many years, and then the shuttle retired in 2010. So the United States found itself kind of on the back foot because the only access that we had at that time was to use the Soyuz, the Russian vehicle, which is an excellent vehicle. But the political issues with the Russians have made that very much more untenable at this point, or very unpleasant. Although the way I understand it is that the Russians and the Western side up on the space station get along just fine. They're cooperating and they work together and all that. But it's kind of too bad that we have that situation. I had high hopes for that. But anyway, Starliner is one of those vehicles. The other vehicle is the vehicle that was SpaceX Dragon, and they're both capsule concepts. SpaceX was kind of like they were awarded, I think, about 2.6 billion in 2014, and NASA awarded Boeing 4.2 billion. And the deliverable for Boeing was to deliver a vehicle that could fly to the space station and also provide propulsion and enough room for somewhere between, I think they required 4 astronauts to fly. And so everybody was all excited about that, but it hasn't worked out. And so the Boeing originally said that they were going to fly. They would be operational by 2017. In 2014, the plan was to be ready by 2017. And 2017 came along, and there were overruns and technical issues with things like software and different technical things having to do with the choice of materials on the vehicle and so forth. So they delayed it, and finally they did fly an uncrewed test launch in 2019. I think late in 2019, and that didn't get to the right orbit, and so they had software problems there. So there's just been many technical issues with Starliner, software, hardware, flammable tape, and the parachutes there was some design problem with the links that held the parachutes, and also issues with the propulsion system, both on the ground. And I mean, when I'm talking about the propulsion, it's the reaction control and the orbital maneuvering thrusters that Starliner has been using. So we got there, and what we found out when they arrived in June, I think June 6th, was that they had a lot of issues with maneuvering the vehicle. They lost thruster, the reaction control and attitude control was very difficult. They lost 5 of the 24 thrusters that they have. But they did manually connect dock. So now the question is, what do they do?
Did you know this one? Boeing official says he's not surprised company Starliner spacecraft got astronauts stuck in space.
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to be a clickbait person. So I'm not going to use words like stranded in space or anything like that. I just want to. I really want this to work. Okay, but Boeing.
So right now, let me ask you this, Leonard. If they undock, if they try to return to Earth right now, what is most likely going to happen?
If they were most likely, my impression is, I don't really know, but my impression is that they've checked out the thrusters, and that Boeing would like to use what they call flight rationale in order to go with the return. Most likely they would return successfully. Okay. But it's human lives at stake, and they really have not been able to determine exactly what was wrong with the thrusters. I've been listening to all of the press conferences pretty carefully, my impression is that the thruster the thruster package, the propulsion system package, and there's something like 24 of these thrusters, and they're in what they call, apparently they're in a kind of housing. I don't really know, and they call the housing a doghouse. So you'll hear that kind of term. They overheated, and some kind of underestimating, or not correctly modeled, or not correctly tested, in my opinion. Too much reliance on software modeling. Because I did hear, and I hadn't heard this in the news. I don't think the news people picked up on this, but what I heard, one of the Boeing developers or analysts, engineers at the news conference, say that they were modeling the thermal behavior of the thrusters using software. The thrusters were made by another company. I don't remember the name of the company offhand, but it's very typical for that's a way that Boeing does things. Is they will go out and buy something, and then they offload all of the requirements onto the contractor, and the contractor tells them, well, yeah, this is what it does. But I think that they had inadequate testing. They didn't actually have physical unit testing of the thrusters, and so now they're in big trouble. My prediction is that they will not allow. So the state of the thing is, this background. So the state of the situation is, the astronauts are on the station now. They're along with I think 5 other people, unless I'm confused about the number of people. 4 of them are going to be switched out in the SpaceX initiative. Each one of those is what they call Crew 8, Crew 9, and so forth. So I believe that we're on Crew 8 right now, and then SpaceX Crew 9 will then fly. Originally, they were supposed to fly in August, and that has been delayed until the third week of September, and then they will switch out. So and that's all because of this Starliner mess. There, I called it a mess, but
you did, but
yeah,
you did not go with the clickbait term "stranded." So
well, I mean, honestly, I can't. I mean, the story writes itself.
Well, they could undock it without a crew, right? Just to return the vehicle.
Yeah, so they could do that. I know there was a lot of noise in the news about, well, there's different software and all that kind of stuff, but I think the story behind that is that the Boeing had trained for a vehicle that required crew input, and so they had the software loads, what they call like data, that's used to initialize the loads on the software. It's not different software. It's just a different way of configuring it. And also the issue having to do with, they've already done the uncrewed flight tests. They did 2 of those. So Boeing has backed off on supporting uncrewed flight, and they're now committed to having a crew on the space station. So the way the software would work would be, well, we'll fire some thrusters automatically, and then we'll have something that will happen, and then we can get the crew to push a button and that sort of thing. And so the real issue there is that the flight team, the ground crew, has trained for crewed flight, and so now the proposal now is that it will probably be deemed suboptimal for the crew to fly back on Starliner, because the thrusters may not work. I mean, we don't, and I think there's probably a lot of people who are in the chain of decision making, who are not comfortable with doing that. So that's probably what's going to happen. They will make a. I mean, my guess is that the crew cannot fly this vehicle back because Boeing can't really show why the thrusters why the thrusters failed, or they can't be sure that the thrusters failed. I think that analysis will go through, and they know. All what I've picked up on is that they were not tested correctly. I'm pretty sure that that's the case. That thruster configuration wasn't tested. They modeled it. They used the computer thermal analysis to model it, and they thought that they had it captured. But
which of these are? Do you know which of the? I mean, there seems to be a couple of different thrusters.
Yeah, I think the yellow things are the thrusters. I don't. Yeah.
Well, I guess.
No. Actually, none of these that are on the vehicle here are the thrusters that are of concern. They're all on the service module, which is that part of the vehicle that's behind the. Yeah.
Like this part. That's what you're saying.
That gray part. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This is a crew. Got it.
And what I understand is that the worst performance was among the thruster housings that were exposed to the sun. So that's where we are on that. I don't know if I've covered everything. So what will happen? What I think will probably happen is that, and I've listened, and this is not just. I'm not just pulling this, out of the air. This is from listening to the what?
Yeah, no, you never pull things out from the air.
I actually don't. Sometimes I make mistakes, but I don't pull things out of the air.
I mean, that's good. Have some basic facts. All right.
So what I heard was that one of the proposals is, and they're planning for, is that first of all, they're training now. They're trying to figure out how to get the software to fly the vehicle automated back, and they'll be able to do either way. They'll be able to. So whenever that decision is made, that will probably be in early September, like in about 2 weeks. Okay, and then what they likely will do is that the current crew up there will sort of join. The current 2 Boeing astronauts who are very experienced, have been on space station. They are gung-ho test pilot people, right? So they're highly qualified. That the next SpaceX crew, I guess it's Crew 9, would be 4 people, and they will only fly 2 people up. And then the current crew from Boeing will then join Crew 9 and fly back in February in 2025. So they will return in 2025. But it's not like they're stranded there. They got a job to do. So they're being drafted. Your president sends you greetings. They're being drafted into Crew 9, and that's what. Then so they will do that. So the two of the crew members that were originally in Crew 9 will be left on Earth, and the 2 pilot I don't even know which of the crew that they will get to go up, and so that's how they're gonna realign the schedule, and I think that's a good solution. They right now they have a choice of flying back on a potentially flawed vehicle,
right?
Or a vehicle that has a long proven track record. After that, I don't know what happens, because there's the question of whether that it would mean if the Starliner flew back without the crew, then that part of the mission would formally not be tested, and whether they can actually certify clear Starliner to do operations. If it were me in the decision loop, I would say no. I would say that Starliner
Leonard's making the decision. All right,
If I were making the decision, I would say no. I don't think Starliner should fly until they have done another test flight. They need to go back and redesign those thrusters so that they're not vulnerable to
are they doing
failure.
They're doing tests on the ground as well, right?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. So in one of the news conferences, they said, well, we use software. We can dig it up. It was 2 weeks ago. We use the software to calibrate it, but we have also been hustling at White Sands with some test chamber, so they actually can do thruster testing, but they did not do that when they designed. They did not do that. Okay, and that was wrong. I kind of like.
It's interesting you're saying like they could have done it on the ground, like with hard.
They could have, because they did it, in the emergency. So they have an emergency where the vehicle wasn't firing thrusters correctly. The thrusters weren't working because they had not modeled. They only modeled them in flawed software. They made assumptions about the thermal characteristics of how the temperature would change on the thrusters that was not validated, and that I have to say that is that's a signature Boeing problem in my experience. So, you rely on software to tell you an answer, and you don't have enough skepticism to validate it. So they were able to. Let me see if I said it right. They were able to do tests on the ground, right? And the engineer that was doing that, who was talking about the thermal analysis, says we'll have to recalibrate our models, right? And it's a little bit unclear, right? Because I think he was kind of sensitive to the idea that well, we didn't actually test these thruster housings for thermal. And so we need to recalibrate or recalibrate our models, essentially, or recalibrate. But testing, you don't test with software. Software is a model, so the output from your model is not data. I think the best that I can do, and I don't have facts. I'm not privy to particular facts. I'm just interpreting what I've heard in the press conferences and reading just about everything I can.
This is so just pointing out some pictures here. This is the Starliner reaction control system thruster that's being tested in the White Sands right now.
Yeah. So they had the capability. This is my point. They had the capability to answer the question, to replicate an anomaly, which they could do after they had an emergency, right? But so they had the capability to do it before the emergency. But somebody, I'm going to guess. I don't know any. Like I said, I don't know facts. I'm going to guess. Some manager said, "Well, we have some software to do this. Why don't we just have the software validate this?" And probably some other engineer, senior engineer, no doubt, said, "Well, that's not actually validating it." And so another manager said, "I don't understand what your problem is." Okay. Well, that actually is a thing that I have heard said at Boeing. I don't understand what your problem is. We have software that gives us the data that tell us whether it's good or not. So that's what I think happened. Yeah.
Basically, you're saying they use software to verify that hardware will work.
So somebody can push back, and say, well, they didn't say that, and then we can go through the press release and find the people who said these things. So I don't think at this point, I was very encouraged by the fact that they were able to dock with station and get a crew up there.
Right.
But I don't believe in Boeing anymore. I think that the problem is not just that they had this problem. The problem is that they had a problem, right? And then they had another problem, and then they had another problem. They had flammable tape that they had used. They had, so the fact is that they have a problem with people being too success oriented. Being well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, then we're going to test it, and then we're going to ship it, right? Instead of being more.
You're saying the design philosophy is flawed? Clearly.
I guess so. I guess so. People at Boeing will tell you that, that they're completely separated from the airplane group, because that Boeing has been having all kinds of engineering design issues with design. The 737 issue that has been they've been having problems with had to do with using a single sensor for flight, for attitude control, attitude measurement, using a single sensor for a life critical application, and it's like, are you out of your mind? I mean, that and they really haven't fixed it in my mind. They said one of the things that happened with the 737, if you want to talk about that, was that okay. So they had two planes crash back in 2019, and it was because they had an angle of attack sensor that was controlling a life critical.
Right.
A life critical piece of software. First of all, they're using software, to control something where the lives of people are at stake. Humanity doesn't really quite know how to do that yet. And yet the companies do it with proprietary software. So they have a group of programmers who we can't see their software. We can't inspect it, right? They just do it. And so what they did with the 737 was they crashed these planes. The planes the pilots were, it's horrifying. The pilots were trying to pull up, and they kept pushing it down into the ground. And this is what Boeing does. All right. So Boeing, and I think it's the same. I think some part of that culture has
also applies to the space division part.
Drifted into the space division,
where basically you just place so much faith in your software.
Yeah, and I think you don't yeah.
Well, you're not working on Starliner. You're not with Boeing, so you're just...
Well, you can use software. But you need to do what the way the shuttle did it. The shuttle had two teams to work on one set of software for avionics, and then another team to work on a third set. So they had triple redundancy, and then the software would vote. There was like some what they call dilemma resolution. So if the software was telling you if the software was telling you to turn a control surface in a particular direction, two of the programs, if all three of them would agree, like in a little error bubble or error envelope, if one of the answers was outside of the bubble of the other two, then you would not use that one, and you'd use you'd have a selected, I guess, a state, you might say, that where the two agreed. If you have two sensors, say, or if the software is delivering answers from just two sensors, then if one of them is bad, you don't know which one to use. Right? You can if they don't agree with each other, that will tell you that that you have a problem. You could enunciate that to the crew, right? And so then the crew could take over. But if you're going to do automated control, then you need to have three.
So why are they not doing three?
Because we haven't learned enough about how to use software and use sensors for life critical applications. They are not using three for Boeing. But I don't want to get into that because I don't know enough about I don't. It
Right,
seems
right.
to me that they.
You can't
It
ask
seems.
me like, hey, like why are they not doing this? Because you don't.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me that they should use three. They were using one, and that's clearly wrong because they gave that system enough authority to fly the plane into the earth, into the ground, if the sensor was wrong. And I actually know quite a lot about, or have studied that issue as well. But for Starliner, I I don't know what to do now. I don't know. Um, I don't think I don't. In my opinion, just looking at and paying very close attention to all of the publicly available information, I don't think that this vehicle is ready, and and then and then and then you have to think, well, this is we're almost in 2025, and
Yeah.
space station only will fly for another 5 years, and Boeing has to deliver what, 6 flights, I think.
So wait. Okay, space station's going to retire in a few years. Boeing's still
Yeah,
trying to get this together. So, and the only destination the Starliner is supposed to like work with is the International Space Station, right?
I don't know the answer to that. It seems
Okay.
like they might be able to use it for something else, but they need to fix it, right? And I don't have confidence in them anymore. I think that the way they fix things is they'll go, oh, we made a mistake here. Okay, we'll fix this in software. Okay, we'll be done in a month. Okay, we'll be done at the end of the month, and then we'll be ready to go. And they smile, But the problem is not that you had this problem. The problem is that you had a problem to begin with, and then you had another problem, and you had another problem. That's the
So
people at NASA have to be thinking about that. So
instead of like an actual like if you compare this say with what the SpaceX is doing, like is
exactly.
right.
So one of the things that I noticed. Remember, we did the talk about Werner von Braun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Go on.
I've studied Werner von Braun, and I think I know who he was. He was like a genius. He was a guy that really, and I'll get to why about Musk. Elon Musk. He
Okay.
knew everything there was to know about the engineers the German scientists that I saw interviewed in the 70s, on YouTube. They would say, Werner, Dr. Braun, I know about propulsion, right? Werner von Braun knew more about propulsion than I did. He also knew about the vanes that went into the steering jets, and he knew about the attitude control and all that thing. He was a genius. He knew about the Saturn V from engine bell to the escape tower, right? He was an expert on all of that. The people running Boeing, the people making decisions at Boeing are not like that.
You're
That's
saying
what I think.
they're not
I
geniuses.
don't know them personally. But I think that that's what the issue is, that they are not of that caliber, right?
Okay.
But we do have Elon Musk, and you can see the same kind of thing, even though he's a little, quirky,
Right.
and
Let's use that descriptor. Okay.
what?
That's yeah, definitely quirky. Go on.
He knows about the engines. He knows about the rocket. He knows everything about it, right? So he's been successful, right? SpaceX, they have this philosophy that, well, I don't know if we're going to get it right or not, but let's just try. Okay, let's make sure let's try. Let's try. Oh, the rocket blew up. Okay, well, what can you learn from that? And that's exactly what Werner von Braun was doing. Okay,
he was willing
Boeing
to
doesn't do that.
blow up. That's where you're saying, like just actually do like hardware tests, like
just do it, instrument it, and do it, and let's see what happens. You're not going to put people on there, obviously, but you fail fast, and then figure out learn from what you're doing. So all during the 1920s and 30s, well, the 30s, von Braun was doing that, and that's the same kind of philosophy that I see Elon Musk exercising. But I don't think Boeing does that. I think Boeing thinks that they know how to build a spaceship, and that you just look in a book and you hire a contractor, and the whoever the contractor is, and
Can you
they'll.
tell me a little bit about, like, say, Boeing historically, as an aerospace uh, contractor done has built so
Well,
much. Like, what's different these days? Like,
well, I don't know. There's lots of people who speculate on that, and I'm just going to let them answer that.
oh,
Okay.
that's fine.
I do think the thing that the thing that I'm talking about, where people who know how to do it, and who lead it, the people in leadership positions at Boeing are not. I mean, they're just not very good, right? And a lot of people will say, well, they only care about money, right? They sacrifice safety for money, but that's not the case. I mean, because Boeing's stock is like a quarter of what it was in 2019, or 2018.
Right.
They're not making money. Boeing has not made any money for the past 5 years. I think. I think that their share of what do you call it, net profit per share of their stock has been negative. And so
So I mean,
and
clearly that is not exactly the reason. If they're
that,
just
yeah, the way to do it is you have the engineers, and the engineers make good decisions, but sound decisions about how to build things. I have heard people say, since we're going to be talking about we can talk about the airplanes some more. That they've stopped innovating and that sort of thing. Well, I don't know if that's the case or not, but they're doing something wrong, and they're doing something wrong with Starliner. And
yeah.
I think NASA. I think there's a SpaceX vehicle up there. Okay, we have Starliner there docked. If there was an emergency right now, okay, where all of the air was coming out of ISS, or if it had lost attitude control, and there was tremendous risks, I think that the Boeing crew should get in the Starliner and punch out, and do what they need to do to back away from the station. But that's not the safest. But to return to Earth, we have the option of either waiting, doing this thing where they take over the crew of crew 8, crew 9 rather, and then come back in February, where we have a proven vehicle that's flown, I think, 19 or 20 times now with a crew. And
you're talking about the SpaceX vehicle.
SpaceX vehicle. So, right. Or we come back in a vehicle that the thrusters are subject to overheating and failing, and so the vehicle could actually spin around and hit ISS.
I mean, I don't think anybody wants to risk that. So, but eventually they have to undock it, right? Regardless of whether or not there's a crew. Do you know how they're going to mitigate that potential risk?
I don't know. I think that they're just going to be really, really careful. Like just be very, very careful when Starliner is backing away. Luckily, they have lots of redundant thrusters, and probably it'll be okay knowing what we know. Boeing is probably right that there is a flight rationale, which means that we don't really know why it failed. We can't be absolutely positively sure. We think we do, but we can't prove it. But we've got all the thrusters. We understand how to run the thrusters now. So, but I'm just not comfortable. If I were with NASA, I just would not be comfortable with that.
if they know which thrusters are not working, I guess they can design it so that they won't use those thrusters.
Well, one of the thrusters has failed. So one of the 24 thrusters there just is offline now. They had 5 of them, I think 5 others that went out, and they have been able to get those to work again. My take on it is that there was some kind of material, a Teflon material, that was used as either a gasket or an O-ring type of material in a oh, I forgot what it's called. It's a little valve. It's an actuator that controls the fuel supply. That it got hot and then expanded and occluded the space where I'm probably not saying it right, but this is how I kind of understood it. That it was occluding the space where the fuel was supposed to flow, and they were able to show that on the ground tests that it kind of like squeezed out or it exceeded the rated area. But I don't know. I thought I heard them say that there was also in the ground tests that they were also getting some particulate, some material in the thruster flow, which didn't sound good to me. Like in other words, something was damaged and flowing through the fuel line. I could be wrong about that, but
how did they duplicate what's in the space condition here?
Well, I think they either have a vacuum chamber or they just have an environmental chamber, and they picked white sands to do the test. So, but clearly they could have done the test prior to launch. Somebody said, no, we have software, right? Software is not expensive. We don't have to pay for all of these fancy tests. But that was bad judgment. So,
have you, Leonard, in your illustrious long career, have you worked on anything else Boeing has developed that was new, like in terms of hardware? Or
yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, don't talk about it. All right. I was merely curious if they follow. I mean, from what you're saying, you have observed the tendency to just do a lot of these, I guess, verifications with software versus actually doing hardware tests. So
Columbia, when Columbia re-entered, I don't know if this is an exact parallel to what has happened with Starliner, but as you know, the Columbia was a shuttle that
it disintegrated.
It disintegrated on entry over Texas.
Okay.
Right. And one of the things that had been happening for years was that the root cause of that was that there was ice that would build up on the external tank. And, the stack for the shuttle was like a space airplane, and it was connected to a big external tank. And I guess everybody knows about that. That the external tank was cryogenic and not ice. It wasn't ice that came off. It was foam. It was the foam that protected the cryogenic fluid, the fuels in the external tank. That on launch, that foam had been coming off and causing damage to the external tiles, the thermal protection system underneath the shuttle. And so one of the things in the shuttle accident report, the Columbia accident report, had to do with this thing called there was a program that was run by Boeing, and it was called a computer program, an analysis program. It was called Kramer. Okay. And so what Kramer did was it estimated, based upon the velocity and the size of the particles of the foam, how much damage it would do to the external tiles. And so this was a modeling software that was being used for that purpose, and so that's how they cleared it. That's how they were able to say that, well, everything's fine. It would only cause some damage to the external tiles. It's only a maintenance issue. We can fix it when they come back. So what Crater did not do was it did not model correctly impacts to the leading edge of the shuttle wing. And so what was found in the accident investigation was that a piece of foam came off the external tank and impacted the leading edge of the wing and punched a big hole in it. And so Boeing, and this is Boeing, it was Boeing's job, had software that they had been using for several years, and it gave them a sense of confidence. But it didn't do it. Nobody had the imagination to think that a piece of foam coming off at supersonic speed and hitting the wing wouldn't punch a hole right through the leading edge of the wing instead of so they had a failure mode that they just kind of validated, and it ended up being turn a crank. Let's turn the crank. What are you highlighting there?
So this time about Crater, that they thought it was a conservative tool, one that predicted more damage than what would actually occur.
So yeah, they thought they had plenty of margin on that, but right. They were completely off track. They did not have any. Nobody was there with the imagination to say, well, what if the foam hits the leading edge, right? And so anyway, this is what Boeing does.
I mean, I can see what you like. Yeah, like you've used the software for not the right scenario, then obviously it's not going to give you the right results.
Yeah, and so undoubtedly, this is the same spirit of what was happening with CST and the thermal analysis of those thrusters. I mean, I don't know. Maybe somebody could point things on the press conference that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm open to that. I just that's just my impression about what happened.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of insight, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, that was a lackluster response.
I wish I could laugh about this. If I hope that they decide. I hope that either I'm completely wrong about this. I'm just a cranky old guy, and that I just don't know anything, and that they can put the two astronauts into the shuttle and into the Starliner, and they can fly back, and everything will be fine. I hope that either I'm a cranky guy, or they know something that they're not saying, or something like that. But if it were me, mm-hmm. and processing the information that I've heard them say, I would not have the crew fly back on Starliner. And after that, I think that I don't know what to do. Okay, I think NASA needs Starliner. Okay, maybe
why does NASA need Starliner?
I think that they need that. I think they need the reboost capability that Starliner provides.
Okay.
I think that Dragon doesn't have that capability. I could be wrong about that, but it seems to me that I read that one of the reasons that they wanted Starliner was for reboost capability and also the lift mass capability for amount of mass that it can bring to the station. But it's definitely over budget. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong about this. You could check on this. That each seat on Starliner is going to be $90 million, and SpaceX is something like $50 million.
SpaceX cost is $55 million. Starliner is $90 million.
And Soyuz is, Soyuz is something like 60-70 million. They came down after they got competition. So the reasons for using Starliner just it seems like everything about Starliner has been flawed. probably they underbid it. When when Boeing was bidding on the contract, fixed price contract, that's another thing that Boeing has never done this before, where they bid on a contract that is fixed cost, meaning
That's it. You don't get any more.
Yeah, we're going to give you this, and where you're not getting any more, right? And I think Boeing doesn't have the skill to bid on those things. I'm not sure SpaceX has the skill either, but they have Elon Musk, who's a genius, and he knows he knows everything. I think that the Boeing people don't know everything. So anyway, I'm probably going to get hate emails from people at Boeing, but that's tough, actually.
You think you're going to get hate emails from Boeing?
No, I won't. But well, I mean, there have been a couple. I'm not a whistleblower. I'm not blowing the whistle on anything, but there have been whistleblowers who have
died. Yeah.
Committed suicide
under rather mysterious circumstances.
It's hard. It's hard to contemplate that. It's like.
I mean, that's just. Well, you're not like involved in the program, so I don't think anybody's out to get you.
No, I'm not.
I hope not.
More concerned about. I don't know.
You're not saying anything that the public doesn't already know for some other news source.
That's right.
So your life is not in danger from that.
Well, not probably from maybe women I've dated.
I don't have anything to say about that. I don't know about your dating history here.
Yeah.
So Leonard's more likely to be. Okay. Never mind. I'm not going to go. Point is, we have not divulged any secrets. That is not.
Yes, I don't have any inside information. I'm just processing what I'm seeing in the literature. I think I did pick up on something that the news people didn't pick up on, which is that Boeing used software to validate the thermal characteristics of those thrusters, and so I do think it's a bit of a scandal that they could. That's a fair word to use, that they relied on the software instead of actually validating the tests with, like in situ or in laboratory experiment.
You're saying when, due to this failure, they demonstrated that they could do that at Y Sands.
That's right.
Yeah. So why wouldn't it have been done before? In other words,
why wouldn't it have been done before? Because a manager said, we have software to do this. Okay. Yeah. We don't need to do that test. Right. So.
Understood. All right. Your life is perfectly fine. Not in danger. Everything you said, somebody else has said before.
Yeah. And that's right. I'm not too concerned. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about Starliner. I'm not a real expert on rockets and stuff like that, but I just am able to observe and I have a good memory so far.
All right. Yeah, so far so good. Okay. All right. Wow. You said this episode wasn't going to be very long.
Yeah, I know, but we have so much fun. People probably drop off. I wish we could figure out a way to I wish we could figure out a way to do the show like shorter.
Well,
I see we have a lot of comments here. Boeing
this is I don't know who Dave Adelians is. I just looked him up. I think he's like a journalist or somebody. But feel free to.
Boeing wants to bet 2 lives against the $6.1 billion on the line for their NASA. I don't know if they want to bet the 2 lives. I'm more inclined to think they just don't know, right? They don't know how to do this, right? I don't believe. Okay, I don't believe that like they want to kill people, right? Or they go, let's see how many people we can kill to make money. I don't. That's not the calculation that's going on. It's that they don't know how to do it. They want the flaw. I wanted to say one other thing. The flaw in the fixed price thing and the contractor thing is that all of this stuff is secret. The software and all the ways that they do all of this design is proprietary. So we don't have any insight into it. And I actually think that's wrong. I think it's wrong for a commercial airplane also. I think that if Boeing let me digress onto 737 stuff again. They use software to control a life critical function. They certainly do that with the space flight. But for 737, they used software to control a life critical function. Okay, and it was secret and it was hidden, and no, they didn't have any peer review. And I believe the government, should require that. I think that they should require, like the NTSB or NASA or somebody, they should have some kind of peer review where if Boeing wants to, and let's just use the 737 thing as an example, they would come to FAA or NTSB and say, we want to use software to control this flight critical system, and here's how we're going to do it. If they had to produce like a couple of days of discussion about that among peers would be other engineering disciplines or activities like, and I'm thinking their competitor, Airbus and the atomic power, atomic regulatory power stations, that use software to control nuclear reactors. And NASA come in and look. They wouldn't have made the mistakes that they made on 737 if they had to make a pitch to a community of peers. And I think maybe the same thing. I think that is a flaw. I think that's a thing that we have to think about. So, what else? What other kind of questions? Let's see. They used a thruster fitting not rated for deep space. That I don't know. If you drive your car somewhere and it breaks down, and you can't get home. Are you stuck?
A lot of your forehead, by the way.
What?
I just find it funny. You're trying to peer into the screen, and then your part of the screen is entirely like your forehead now.
I'm not. Look. Who is Dave? Dave Adler.
I don't know, but
okay. Well, welcome, Dave. If you're still there.
Yes. Hey. So we're hitting that close to the hour mark. So
okay, did you want to talk about anything else?
Yeah, let's talk about this guy. This guy.
Okay.
See, look.
Sure.
There's a cow. Did I show you this?
Yeah. Yes. We've talked about it before. And there's a cow.
Okay. All right.
And yeah.
All right. So let's see how good this is. This is supposedly a UFO footage over. By the way, okay, let me turn this thing off. This is really annoying. Okay, this guy's turned off. All right, let's see what this says. Play.
You're above the clouds, where in which something very spooky passes by just near said airliner.
En la TAM nos encanta ser parte de sus celebraciones. Por eso queremos felicitar a una princesa muy especial llamada Ana Sofía, que se encuentra hoy cumpliendo años. Te deseamos muchas bendiciones y que seas.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing a lot more of these lately. I love it that people on planes are having their phones and their cameras at the ready, and it's a group effort.
That's a balloon.
And as far as this footage, it's said that this UFO was sighted on a flight from Bogota, Colombia to Salemo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Probably not. In 2023. So over Colombia is a hotbed for UFO activity. This has sort of a diamond shape at times, and at other times it looks like a saucer. And I don't know if this is just me, but at some points it even looks like the Black Knight satellite, or at least.
Okay, so what do you think?
Kind of compelling, actually.
And it's a group.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really funky. I mean, if you actually see this, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying they're aliens. It's something.
But you're saying it's aliens. You're not saying it's aliens, but aliens.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
that one is compelling, and you don't hear me say that very often.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually, it's not really blurry.
I'm gonna have to find all these videos that actually are not blurry, and then you'll be like, well, I don't know what they are.
Yeah, they're aliens. Yeah. I mean, I wish they would give me I wish they would come and.
What do you wish they would do?
I'd like to. I have some questions I'd like to ask them.
What would you ask?
I would ask. Well, I would ask. I guess first thing I would ask. Seriously.
Yeah.
I would say, what are you going to do with me?
What would you do with me?
Yeah. I would say, where are you from? Where do you come from? What can I do for you? I'll do anything within reason. Let's see.
This is how your interaction with a extraterrestrial would go?
Yeah.
You would offer to do things for them?
No, I wouldn't offer. I would say, what can I do for you? Or what would you like me to do? So I wouldn't necessarily, it depends. So, in Independence Day, the actor that plays the president of the United States, who's really a good actor too, he says, so what do you want us to do? And the alien says, he says, die.
That sounds simple enough if that was, your objective. We're pretty primitive, all things considered.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're hominids. Yep.
We can barely get into space right now.
I don't know. We're doing okay. It's gonna be okay. All right, it's gonna be okay. Okay, I've seen a lot of stuff. Watched a lot of news. What I call the news stations that we have, these 24-hour news stations. I call it the prole feed.
A what?
The prole feed. Prole.
Prole?
Yes, prole feed. Let's see if it's.
What is pro? Is that a real word?
A prole.
That is a real word. Oh, that means worthless entertainment and propaganda designed to satisfy the masses.
If that's not what.
I did not know it was a real word. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That is an interesting word. I guess I learned a new word today.
Prole feed, yeah.
Prole feed is a new word I learned.
People that really hang out with me, they know what I mean when I'm talking about the prole feed. So. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. So for people watching the show though, this is not a pro feed.
No, we're not a prole feed.
We're not a prole feed. All right.
In fact, we don't even really care whether you watch or not. It's like
doesn't matter. But
what?
We're gonna have to wrap this up. So
yeah.
Also, for one of our viewers, by the way, set of our viewers is people 10,000 years in the future. So
they know about the prole feed.
They already know about the prole feed. Hopefully, by that point, it's still not going. I don't know. Maybe it's around forever.
Yeah.
Who knows? But this for you guys, 10,000 years in the future, whatever. This is definitely not prole feed, and this is I don't know what this is.
This is just two typical nerds having a conversation every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
Recording it for posterity.
Yes. So. All right. So
all right, that's it.
All that said, we're gonna wrap up the show. Anybody else has any comments, feel free to put it on here and I will respond later. Ideally, if you're watching the show live, of course, you can put the comments and then we will respond as we see them during the show. But if you put it afterwards, I'll just respond.
Yeah.
With all that said,
like and subscribe.
Yes.
Share with your friends.
Like, subscribe, share with your friends, and if you're really motivated, support the show. Go on patreon.com/SG2.
Yeah.
Become one of the patrons. And so, with all that said, I have to say, look up because you never know what you will see.
So that's right. So namaste.
Namaste. All right.
Good night.
Yes, I was waiting for that.
Mwah.
All right. Take care, everybody.